When you okay, the day before set, what is going in your mind?
I'm hoping I don't screw up.
Okay, that's a terrible mindset. That is horrible. That is horrible because why do you think about that? Because
There's a lot of people right.
and what happens? And what happens if you think like that?
Then you get stressed out and you tend to forget like a bag full of batteries.
Yes, that's true. You tend to do what?
You screw up.
Screw up because you're thinking, oh, I don't want to screw up. I don't want to screw up. That would be like me saying, don't think about a pink elephant. Don't think about a pink elephant.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Now what are you thinking about?
A pink elephant.
You're thinking about a pink elephant. Yeah. So this is kind of actually works perfect because it's prime example of how not to think, Joe. It's how you know, but you don't want to be naive in a way that is, you know, you don't want to say, oh, everything's going to go perfectly. It's going to be super smooth because that is the wrong mindset as well. Mm-hmm. Because if you're like, oh, everything's going to go amazingly, there's going to be no hiccups, it's going to be great. Well, yeah, that's better than thinking, oh, it's going to be the worst disaster in the world. But at the same time, if anything goes wrong, if you're thinking that way, then you're going to just give up because you're going to be like, well, I thought it was going to go perfectly and it's not perfect. So screw this.
Right.
You know, so the real right mindset to have is to be thinking positive that it's going to go great, be wary of what could go wrong, but be prepared. Just make sure that you're prepared. And if you are worried about something, you can take action in a sense that like, oh, I hope I don't forget all my gear, for example, right? I hope I don't forget all my gear. What can you
well, from personal experience,
yeah,
I would have that make sure you make yourself a list of like just the essential gear that you cannot forget. Have that set aside the night before, or have it loaded in your car the night before. So it just do whatever you can to get that essential. Like, okay, well, I might have forgotten some kind of like diffusion cloth or something like that, but that's, you know, but at least I didn't, you know, I have the cameras, I have the batteries and the lights and everything, so like we can get something going there. But yeah, it's a list helps. It's like going shopping, you know. It's like saying, oh, can you get, you know, all these different items at the store?
Yeah,
and you go there, you try to balance that in your head, and yeah, good luck.
Well, it's like I like to call it the Santa Claus method. Oh. Like, what does Santa Claus do?
He's got a list.
Yeah,
checks it twice.
Checks it twice. Right. So when do you want to check your list?
Well, the night before, and right when you leave the house.
Yes, boom. Yeah. There you go, boom. Because then also because it, you know, what you do is the night before you can really you can think about, oh, can you close that door all the way? So the night before you could be thinking of you know, thinking about everything, right? And then kind of what's cool, what a cool thing is that because a lot of times the night before you could be thinking, oh, you know, I hope everything goes right or whatever. But if you take care of everything that night before, then you have that, you know you have everything, you know you're set. And then what happens in the morning, you can think of extra things. So it's kind of that extra leverage that you have with your brain thinking, oh, wow. Oh, actually, what if I brought this too? I didn't even think about that. And that's even better, you know? So you you basically help, because it is such a mental gymnastics, like making a movie is completely mental gymnastics, because you're thinking about a million different things. As a DP, what are you thinking about?
That is also, you know, you're trying to get the best image that you can create, but you're also, I think on top of that, you're trying to work with people that have a look in mind, but might not have the technical knowledge. And so you are the instrument of that. You got to make their image the way that you got to make it look like.
Right. So you're thinking about what, your gear, the gear that you have?
So that's, I think one of my problems is I think I overpack a lot of times.
Overpack, yes.
Along with the stuff of the times I forgot stuff. But, but it's like, you know, we did the camping trip movie not too long ago, and
I mean Bigfoot's Ghost coming out.
Bigfoot's Ghost,
November 24th, Black Friday.
That's right. And great time, amazing experience, loved it. I think I brought about
experience. I had a horrible experience. Okay, anyway, keep going.
I brought about maybe half that stuff I packed in the van, we never needed.
Right.
So, and that it also impacted the, the whole production, because that means like that's less space for our gear for all the other people. So.
Well,
but there was some unexpected things. But I mean, it's like
there's a couple things though. Like one, it's better to overpack than underpack.
Yes,
of course.
And then like the others where I forgot some key gear.
Right, and look, like this is something that as a filmmaker or as someone that's ever worked production, if you haven't made those mistakes, then you probably haven't been on enough productions. Because everyone makes those mistakes. There's people that are very experienced and talented, and then they forget like the easiest things. There's there's
you could have all the stuff and then forgot the SD cards, something really small.
Yeah,
and that's
really big. That's really big.
It's
it's like, well, those are the things. Is like those are the really important things.
That's
so it's like so SD cards, hard drives. Okay, so it's like you can shoot everything till the cows come home, but where can you store it? And if you run out of SD card space, you're kind of screwed. Actually, I was on this contact lens shoot, which I won't say the company. It's not 1-800-Contacts, which is an amazing company. It's a different company, and there was like the Jonas Brothers were on set, or one of the Jonas Brothers. It was like this huge production, and they forgot hard drives. They forgot the hard drives on the set, so they had to send someone to go to Best Buy and buy these hard drives, the day of. So, even these big productions, and it's crazy. Like you would think, I was talking to someone that does a lot of the big movie premieres of the Chinese theater, and they work with some of these big companies. One of these might rhyme with Schmizny. And they said, like, even them, they are like really disorganized, and it's just a big disorganized mess. So you would think, at that level, everyone has it dialed down, but not necessarily, because filmmaking it's a constant problem solving thing. And you can't get discouraged, because once you do, then it's done. I mean, then you're done. You might as well give up. You might as well quit. Because it's like the team that comes in, oh, well, we're going to lose anyway. We're going to lose. So it's like, okay, well, what is that a winner's mindset?
Oh, right.
No, like, we're going to lose. So it's going to suck. It's going to be terrible. Like no, you cannot, because if you do, then you will lose. You'll have a miserable day on set. Everything will go wrong. Everything will, and another thing is you can't be thinking about like, oh, well, so I was talking to this guy, and he was talking about how he's made this show, and I was telling you about this earlier or yesterday, and he made this show, and then he was the host of the show, and his energy was super low, and I'm like, dude, so is this your finished show? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, but I mean, hey, I was really tired. I pulled 10 all-nighters, and I pulled 2 all-nighters in a row, and people don't understand like that I was just this tired. And I'm like, well, people don't care, so if you have that mindset, you can't have the mindset of, well, I've got all these excuses. I could just say all these excuses, and that's going to make my show better. Is that going to make the show better?
No, like you said, you say all the time, you can make excuses, you can make movies.
You can make movies, or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. That's true.
48-hour film.
So, yeah, we're building up to that. Okay, well, cat's out of the bag. By the way, 48-hour film school, guys. 48-hour film school has launched, and it is available in the description below. We talk about a lot more. I go into in-depth detail about every single step of the way. You don't even have to be a filmmaker like us. You could be a regular different Joe, off the street, and learn how to make a movie from start to finish. So, but a lot of this is mindset. Actually, you are a student of the program.
That's right.
Because he's one of the golden ticket owners. So one of the perks of being a golden ticket owner is being an insider at Hey Ho Studios. So yeah, how's the course been?
It was great. Very direct and bite size, just enough. Like none of them like the lessons um, dragged on or anything. It's not like, okay, let's do a couple minute intro to kind of warm up to this next segment. No, it just hits the ground running. And I think that's also the popularity of like why TikTok is the way it is. It's like people have a small attention span these days, and so this kind of works for it.
Well,
it just dives right in.
I think the thing is people overcomplicate movies. They overcomplicate everything, and they try to make it.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, well,
amazing director, but no one takes 2 years to find like the one scene shot location.
Yeah, I think the thing is you can't get too complicated, and then because if you're trying to get complicated, it just bogs down the whole set, and then if you're overthinking as well.
Yeah.
So talking about mindset, the filmmaker's mindset. If you're thinking too much, you're screwed.
Spielberg always says, I could spend another 2 or 3 hours and make this one shot 10% better, or I could just move on and shoot the next scene.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you could always be polishing the movie. It could always be better. You could always have a better location. You could always get a better actor. You could always get, well, unless you get like, I guess Meryl Streep or someone. I don't know where Meryl Streep, but Leo DiCaprio.
Tough to beat that.
Yeah, tough to beat that. But I think it's really you have to like. I've been more of shoot in terms of filming first, and then ask questions later. Where it's like you just kind of go, and then again if you don't, because I've definitely overthought stuff a lot, and I've learned this through School of Hard Knocks. Is if you're thinking about every single possible thing, or if you're thinking about every single possible thing that could go wrong, like that's horrible. Like that's terrible. Like you don't want to. You want to avoid mistakes, obviously. So you want to think about logistics. You want to think about if you're thinking about like parking, for example. Thinking about if you're not thinking about those things, then you will run into those problems. So you do want to be methodical and think things through, think things accurately, but don't overthink it. Don't be thinking, because there's people that are thinking like, oh, well, what if we're parking, and what if there's no spaces, and then what if you can play the what if game.
You're looking for some reason why it's not going to work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Like, oh, what if Oprah Winfrey comes into town and creates a traffic jam? It's like you're thinking about stuff that is, one, will never ever happen, and then two, you're not focusing on the right thing, which is, okay, you should be just thinking about your cast, your crew, the time to be on set, the shot list, right. The pages in the script you need to do that day, and then I think you just give it your all every single day, like especially when you're on set of a production every day. If you just lay it out on the line and just know you gave it your all, and then after that you can just then you could prep the next day, and you take it a day at a time, and then you have it mapped out so each scene, when each scene is going to be
scheduling and shot list,
scheduling out, but at the same time, like, if an actor's like, if it's Monday and they're like, well, what are we gonna have, or what are we gonna have at the crafty table on Friday, or if they're like, oh, what are it's like, guys, let's you think about it at a day at a time, and you don't overthink it, because
like you were saying about the costume stuff, what earrings should the person wear for this scene or something? That's overthinking, but as a director, you're like, actors are not cattle, but
they should be treated like cattle.
Gotta keep them in line.
No,
it's like,
just kidding.
No, but your job is to, like, you can, push power forward and keep everybody, like the cast and crew might be overthinking. You got to be at least the beacon of simplicity on this.
Yeah, well, I think, and that's the thing, because Also, if you're the filmmaker, you have to be able to effectively communicate to each department as well. So, and then because you're eventually explaining the vision of the project, and ideally, if you have people that are good at what they do, then they will just add to that project. You could just explain what you're looking for, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, I know how to do it, and they do it. I think something where there's the example that Joe was referring to, I had an actress on set one of our movies, is that she rolled out this huge, I'll never forget it, she rolled out this huge like smorgasbord of earrings, and like literally hundreds of different pairs of earrings. And there's definitely ones not to wear, it's like if she was wearing these huge hoop earrings that were like had jingle bells on them or something like that. Obviously those are not the right earrings to go, but it's like if you're looking at a set of green earrings versus a set of blue earrings, if you're looking at, it's really not going to make a big difference. And if people are really going to be focusing on that, oh, I can't believe that girl wore blue earrings with her green outfit, it's like, so, but also making a decision and sticking to it, because if you're hesitant with it too, especially if you're the filmmaker, if you're the director, someone's going to be asking you're going to be asked a million questions. And if you're unsure, then they're going to be like, well, who the hell is this guy? This guy hasn't even thought about this.
Right.
He doesn't even know what the hell is he talking about. And if you're thinking like, oh yeah, do I want this shot to be like this? Or do I want my actor to be wearing pink? Or do I want it to be yellow? It's like a lot of times it really, stuff like that, unless you're talking about continuity, unless you're talking about something really vital, if a background actor is like, it's a lot of it is common sense, is what I'm getting at. It's pretty much all common sense. And a lot of people get way too far ahead of themselves too, is like they'll say, oh, man, this show, I got this great idea for this show, it's hilarious, I got all these characters are great, they're so funny and everything, and it would be an amazing show on a big network, and then maybe Fox will pick it up, and then once Fox picks it up, I'll be a millionaire, and once I'm a millionaire, it's like and then I'm like, well, how much have you written the show? They're like, oh well, I haven't written an episode yet, but it would be a great show. It's like you're going so far ahead. And then a lot of filmmakers, they want to think like yeah, the red carpet premiere is going to be amazing to my movie, which that's great, it should be amazing to your movie, but have you written a single word of your script yet? And if the answer is no, then shut the hell up and write your script first.
There's in app development, it's kind of this, it's a lot of similarities of like something called feature creep. As people always say, like, wouldn't it be, I have this idea for an app, and it'll order groceries automatically. And then they think, oh, okay, that's a great idea. Then you hire developers and you put it together. Then you start thinking like, okay, well, what if we add this? It never gets released.
Yeah.
And there's also something called minimum viable product. And that's, just like, what is it going to take just to get it in on the App Store? Or what is your movie going to take just to get it released on Film Hub out there? So, yeah, it's great if you want to make your masterpiece, kind of thing, but and do 75 takes on like to get one scene of someone like saying hello. But if you have the time in production, that's what Stanley Kubrick did on it. But it's really, most productions are not like that. You're not going to have that much freedom. It's just like, okay, we got it. Let's go to the next one. You got to be realistic on this.
Yeah, well, that's a tough word. I kind of hate that word, because it's like it
keeps you from dreaming big.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know, realistic. It's like, well, realistically, I'm not going to finish this movie. It's like, well, okay, then you're not going to finish the movie. I mean, if you're thinking like that. But I mean, if you think practically, practically is a better word, because practically, do you have the time to take 80 takes at someone saying hello, like you said,
right.
and is that practical? It's for everyone to be sitting around on set and wait for someone to say hello. Like, okay, now say it different. Okay, now say it with a motivation that your first grade teacher told you you'd never amount to anything. It's like
his motivation. He was interesting though. Kubrick did that. They'd have 100 takes of Tom Cruise going through a door, and the thing is, like, after about 70 or 80 of times of him going to that door, it became almost muscle memory for the actor, and he was looking for that moment when it just becomes like natural, like the cameras don't even exist. But
see, the problem with that is that actually, you know what, 9 times out of 10, that take is.
Yeah.
You know what number of take that is?
Oh, like the first 3 or
take
something.
One.
Take one.
Take one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I don't do that's why I always roll rehearsal. I don't do the rehearsal. Like, you can rehearse your lines, rehearse your stage off camera. Once you're there on set, we roll. We're here to roll. We set up the shots ready. Okay, we're rolling. Take one.
And I noticed your style is you don't do take 1, take 2, like you'll just power through of like, well, do different takes but you'll have it in continuous recording. You won't stop the recording. Like it'll be,
right. Because if you stop the recording, that means you stop. Okay, stop, reset. All right, go back to 1. Okay, sound speed, camera rolling. Okay, slate, scene 1, take 2. It's you're wasting. That's wasting so much time. Versus like, okay, back to 1, try it again. And then now in post, instead of syncing up like 5 clips for one clip, it's all you just do it once, and then you have 5 takes in the same clip. And it's important to know, which the editor should, because if they're looking at the takes, they should know that there's multiple takes within one thing. They shouldn't just look at the first one, because then you can it's just easier that way, and then you just single out each one, and it's faster as well.
You can scan through the one video file,
and also momentum as well for actors, because you're building that momentum. You're building the momentum with the cast, with the crew, and if the actor's already in the mindset and they just flub a line, you can just go back to 1, just do it. We're still rolling, because once you stop, that momentum stops, and then you have to redo it again. And then a lot of times, especially with crew too, might stop, then they start talking. Oh, hey, did you watch the game yesterday? Now they're laughing about something else. Now that okay, all right, guys, quiet on set. Let's go back. It becomes
lose the momentum.
Yeah, you lose that momentum, and momentum is so hard to get back. Then you're having to do it again and again and again, and you're just like you're taking a step backwards for every step forward. So you're doggy paddling at that point. You're not going in.
Being a director seems like it's being a problem solver. It's number 1 on it, and any kind of problem can happen on set on it, and the big ones being like you might have to replace an actor, or someone might get injured or something like that. But it turns out like for whatever reason, like you just it's like a MacGyver mindset.
Yes, MacGyver mindset.
Constantly solving problems on it. But then leads to, there's maybe the best thing is you get stressed out if you think like there's only one way to make this movie and there's a million things that can go wrong. That would really stress you out. Thinking it's like, it's not going to happen. But you can think, no, you have an idea, you go and try it, and then it might not, the movie might be a different product than what you had in mind, but it might be better.
Yeah,
your goal is to complete that.
And that is a thing where people are like, oh yeah, I had this location, but then they dropped out, and I can't believe they dropped out, and they're dropped out. I can't. By the way, my location dropped out, and we had them set, but then they dropped out. It's like, okay, the energy you're spending right now talking about this dropped out location, all you need to do is say, well, they dropped out. Okay. Where's the next location? Where else can we film?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're just wasting the energy on the back, on what has already been done, and you can't bring it back.
Right. You don't dwell on it.
You can't dwell on it. You really can't, because if you do, it'll make you very, very depressed, probably.
Yeah. And a lot of cast and crew are keeping their momentum and energy from the director. You have to, if you're stressed out, depressed, or whatever it's like about the project, it's gonna bleed out to like everybody else.
That's a very good point
So,
too. That's a very good point. And I've
yeah.
noticed, like, if I'm on edge, if I'm stressed out, then now all of a sudden other people are stressed out. If I'm snappy, other people are snappy. I'm like, okay, wait, shit. Okay, let me just stop. Let me regroup. You know, I guess there's certain, like, I've, you know, you try to maintain a calm. It's like how do I describe it? It's like a pressured calmness. You know, you have to be kind
Even
of
keel.
even keel. Yeah, even keel. But you know, you stay positive. I remember on set of Simp, you know, we had a couple really bad takes, and then I'm like, all right, next take's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And one of the actors is like, just because you say it's gonna be great doesn't mean it's gonna be great. And I'm like, which is, I mean, he's not wrong. He was not wrong because, but it helps. Like, all right, guys, no, it is. You're almost like this motivator, right?
Oh,
Because if you have an actor that's like, oh man, we have to do another take. Like, yeah, you just did one take. You know, like, oh man, you said that this take was gonna be an hour and it was 2 hours, and it's like, well, welcome to production, buddy. Welcome to production. You know, and you can't always, like, for instance, for me, people say, oh, but you said, you know, but you said, I'm like, yeah, guess what? I changed my mind. Am I allowed to change my mind? Yes. You know, right? If it's your set, like, oh, yeah, but you said the red shirt would look better. I'm like, well, I changed my mind. The blue shirt looks a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's you can't, it's also something where you have to not take it personally. And then also you have to keep the positive energy. And also there are some people that drag down the whole, like, their energy is just low. They show up, they're really low on energy. They're down about whatever it is. We had this one director of photography on one of the bachelor party movies, and he's just like, I'm like, okay, all right, we got that first shot, let's do a close-up. Like, oh my god, we have to do a close-up of this. It's like, yeah, we're making a movie, we're doing multiple shots, like, this is not like. And so we ended up firing him because he was such low energy, and it just brought everyone else down. It's like, man, this guy's a Debbie Downer, you know, versus, like, we got this other guy who was some Russian guy. He was more of a videographer than film, but he had a great attitude. He showed up. He was on time. He didn't talk much. Like, oh, can we do this? Yeah, sure. You know, okay. You know, and he was cool, right? So it's like, that's why I would rather work with someone that is just has a positive attitude.
You never know the impact. A lot of people don't realize, like, the impact having a good attitude has on a job. Like, you might look at this as like, okay, this is one job. When it's over, I'll never see these people again. But people talk, and people, you know, in the movie industry, it's all about having a reputation of, like, oh yeah, this guy was on time all the time. This guy, you know, upbeat attitude. You know, it's like that counts for something. And then, like, you never, you know, definitely you don't want to burn bridges on just being, you know, like, thinking like, oh, okay, well, at least this is over, kind of thing. So you never want to know where this stuff's going to lead on it. But,
yeah, and also stuff like that. Like, I take note as a director, and if people are like, oh, if like an actor. If an actor,
yeah, you might not call them for.
If an actor leaves set, like, the second call time's up, and they're just in a rush to get home, and, oh, I can't wait to do this, I can't wait to get home, or they're like, oh man, okay, I'm probably not gonna hire you again. I'm sorry, you know, and you know, but if they're there and just having a great attitude, like, oh no, I'm just happy to be here, I love being here, I love being on set, then I guaranteed I will be calling them back, and I will bend over backwards for these people to make sure that they are on set, you know, with me, and make sure that they get a role.
You look at all the Hollywood elite directors: Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan,
Tremaine Hayhoe.
Yeah. They have they've over the years they've put together a core. Like, Spielberg has used the same, like, you know, DP for the last 20 years or something like that. It's like,
yeah,
because they build a network of this stuff, and it's like, you know, they know that they can produce this level of quality, this product, and they'll just go on to the next project and call their crew. If they can't make it because they're doing other projects, that's when they kind of find their replacements. But
well, like, yeah, and that is the thing. It's like you become pretty close. It's kind of like it is like a family. But if you've been working together with each other for a lot longer, then you've built all that rapport where you can really, you guys become on the same page, and it becomes like just a quicker, easier thing, and it becomes better. At the same time, I do like to work with different talents. If someone's a different director of photography has a certain eye that I'm looking for, like that's kind of what I would hire them to do. I think that's something that is cool. Because you could have, especially for a different genre of film,
right?
It's something that you just know that they can achieve this look, and it just it is like cheat codes if you find someone that is really good at what they do in a certain area.
And as a fledgling DP, I think I'd say portfolio is probably everything, or is a big part of it. It's like you have a portfolio, and even if it's a YouTube channel, and it's like something that you can say like, okay, here's some sample shots of like, this was a handheld shot, action scene or something like that. This was a dramatic sunset shot or something like that, or a music video or something. Like you have samples that you can offer up on this stuff.
Right, a reel, and
a
DP. It's just as important to have a reel for a DP than it would be for any actor, for any and the reel doesn't necessarily have to be every single project in this crazy sizzle, hyped up, ridiculous Vimeo link with a password on it. It could just literally be linked to one of your projects, and then I could just scrub through the project. I'm not looking at the acting because that's irrelevant. I'm looking at the looks.
Yeah,
like, does that look good? Conversely, if you're working with an actor, an actor could send me a link. First off, if an actor doesn't have any links to any of their work, I do not even consider them. If they don't have a headshot, I don't consider them because I don't know what they look like. If they don't have, but if they have, even if they have an Instagram link that has a headshot and then it has them doing a monologue, I could tell within 5 seconds, typically 2 seconds, whether they can act or not. And so and that's their audition essentially, right? That's their audition. That's their first. I mean, because I'm auditioning them before they even, the proper audition, right? So I'm just seeing if they're able to even get their foot in the door. Because if I look at their stuff, and conversely, like I'm saying, it could be the worst lit, it could be a terribly lit thing, it could be a vertically shot thing, the audio could be terrible. But if their acting is great, then I'm looking at their acting. I'm not looking at. That's why a lot of actors are like, well, man, I'm just trying to get a reel together. I'm trying to save up money to get headshots, and I need to pay this guy in LA $1,000 to get the best headshot. It's like, no.
If all you have is a phone, like do something on your phone. There's no shame.
Dude, and anyone else that tells you differently, they're like, oh, in the business you have to have a proper headshot. Well, I mean, define proper. Yeah, now these days we could take a proper headshot that looks great against any one of these walls, and make it look good. An iPhone or a Samsung or Google phone, whatever, you can get a perfect shot. And then it's like, okay, great, I know what they look like, and do they look like the role? Is it the right, if it's Bigfoot, for example, are they tall enough, unless you're casting Littlefoot,
Tom Cruise,
Littlefoot, which, side note, it would be interesting because I know that they always shoot Tom Cruise in a way that he doesn't like
perspective.
Like he doesn't look short, so,
or they find a shorter female lead side character to match up with
shorter male. I was rewatching Minority Report the other day, and him and Colin Farrell kind of have that where they're looking eye to eye, but they look like they're the same height. They both look,
There's some brilliant shots on that movie that are just like, that's Spielberg's genius on it. Like, you can just look at the scene and see who's the most powerful character in the room and stuff like that. Who's trying to make the argument, and then one other person comes up with a good point, and like suddenly it shifts, and now like that's a smaller one. Like there's two people on the other side. Yeah. Same thing with Jurassic Park when they were sitting around talking about what they're going to do with how all this money they're going to make with the park, playing God, and subtle background. They had this slideshow projectors of images of the park showing on the opposite wall, which doesn't do anything for the shot, but then you realize like those slide projectors are like basically like giving this halo light to all the people sitting at the dinner table, so they all look like these gods, like sitting around a table, and that's what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, it's. But then again, that's overthinking. That's like if you have the time and budget, and you want to really like squeeze every, stuff, and most of that stuff goes completely over 90% of the audience.
Well, you want people to be immersed in the story as much as possible without anything being overly distracting.
Yeah.
Right. So, because if they were all in a table in the dark, no one was lit, then that would just be too distracting. Unless that was supposed to be the scene if the power went out or something like that. Right. But like you want it to be. It's almost like the right sound. The best sound design is one where you don't even notice it, or you're just submerged in the story. It's like when people notice that it's bad sound or that it's crackly sound or something like that, then that's bad sound. Yeah. But and that kind of sucks for sound designers, because it's like if they do their job, no one gives them a compliment, because it's like, oh, I was immersed in the story and it's great. But they'll be like, oh, it was shot well. You did it. But
compliments. You had a great collab with Bradley Lieberman the other day. And he had a really good point on the set. It's like, there's a separation between the people. His crew has to understand there's a separation between his personal feelings and him as a director. When he says someone that was like to someone that was horrible, like he's not saying like that as a personal attack or something.
Yeah,
it's like,
I said that.
Oh, did you?
Horrible. Yeah. He did say something similar. Like he was saying his director hat. But then he was also an acting hat too, which that is so
You've
so hard.
Done that.
I have,
so.
but not as a star, and that wouldn't be something that, maybe I would attempt it one day, but like I used to make fun of people like Kevin Costner, like Kevin,
Waterworld or something.
Yeah. But like, dude, I give the guy all the credit in the world now, because he can act and direct, and that is very hard.
Did he direct Dances with Wolves?
I think he did. Yeah, I believe he did.
First one, and then Waterworld, and then The Postman.
Yeah, stuff like those are kind of movies that I probably.
Mel Gibson was another one.
Yeah, Mel Gibson. Oh, he's ultra talented. Yeah, complete. Like, that guy's a. I don't think he writes though. He's more of a director.
Yeah.
And actor, but doing those two different things is a big thing. But there's certain, I don't know. It becomes. I went to this premiere of this indie movie last week, and I won't say what it was, because I don't want them to get upset, but you could tell the director put himself in the movie, and he put himself at the end of the movie, and it was like supposed to be this big moment, but it wasn't, because it was so distracting, because sometimes you could tell when the director puts it in. And I guess like the movie Django Unchained.
That's
my biggest note. I love that movie, except
Quentin's at the end.
Quentin's, which it was a completely unnecessary cameo. He tried to put on an Australian accent.
Yeah.
It sounded terrible.
It pulled everything out, though. It was like, okay, this is the movie.
Yeah. Then it's like
Pulp Fiction. I thought his character was pretty good, but nobody knew who he was before.
We got Rideshare Lisa in the building. How's it going, Lisa? How's it going? By the way, guys, Rideshare Lisa is our first patron on Patreon, baby. Patreon.com/Heyo Studios. Rideshare Lisa has an insider exclusive look. I even sent her a special Rideshare poster, because I appreciate the patrons. So I think she might be a little bit back behind, or maybe we're back behind.
Yep. No one likes a stressed work environment.
Yeah, I think she's a bit behind us.
You know who also forced themselves?
Trevor Harris in the building.
Forced himself into. Hey, what's up, Trevor? The director that forced himself into every movie, or most of the movies, is Alfred Hitchcock. And everybody's waiting for that, like, oh, he's somewhere in the back, he's getting on a bus or something like that. And it's kind of turned into a distraction for
so let's see how far behind. Okay, no. So the chat is. Did you finally just notice me? Yeah, the chat thing here popped up. So Trevor Harris is in the building. What's up, Trevor?
Trevor Harris.
So we are we're actually talking about the filmmaker's mindset. Are you talking about the filmmaker's mindset, Trevor? No. Uh, so okay, so we're it's a little bit, there's might be like a 15-second delay, I think, on the chat that we see. But
I got chat.
But you
on
said
backup.
ultra low latency. Shouldn't it be high latency? No.
That is ultra low latency is wait time. So you want to decrease the waiting time. Decrease the latency is, that means it's ultra fast. Latency is like something. So if it's a high latency, that means there's a long delay. Latency is another word for delay.
Okay, so it's kind of backwards in that regard.
Uh,
Well, because I'm always thinking high as being fast and low being slow.
Yeah. Well, so we want ultra. It was normal and then low and then ultra low.
Okay, I'm gonna be.
But
ultra.
I got you guys on this backup chat window here. So Trevor Harrison has. What are we reviewing tonight? We're reviewing everything about film, the film mindset, the filmmaker's mindset. But yeah, Quentin Tarantino. You know, he definitely does like an angry guy, like, you know, kind of pissed off, frustrated character.
Who?
Quentin Tarantino.
Oh
He
yeah,
could do
yeah.
that.
Well, there was also another thing where they had his cameo in Pulp Fiction, and he kind of said some pretty messed up things, and it's almost like, oh, wait a second, he wrote the movie too,
Yeah.
and no, he's like writing that movie to say. I won't repeat what he
No, that's
says,
true.
but
That's
it was
true.
dead
He's
something.
been definitely criticized for like using like. certain
But the more you
language
think
on
about
film.
it, it's like, that's kind of really interesting. But anyway, so we were just talking about the filmmaker's mindset, the type of mindset you need to have in order to make a movie, because it is a mental game. Like making a movie is a very mental game, and it is not.
It's sometimes easy to get burned out on it.
It can be. It can be.
I mean,
Definitely.
This solo filmmaking is probably like 1,000 times harder than like the. I mean, yeah, the complexity of making the next Avengers movie is insane. But
No,
they
it's
also,
not. No, it's not.
$250 million
No, it's
goes
not.
a long way.
No, it's not. That
That's-
is the least complicated thing. That would be the least complicated movie for me to ever make as an Avengers movie. Because one, it's the dumbest plot, dumbest like.
But managing like they have a assistant, for everything.
Yeah.
On the set.
So it's like, dude, yeah, that's less.
So that's the independent solo filmmaker. I think that's the advanced level filmmaking right there, because you're solving everything about it. It's all on you.
Well, yeah, you're solving everything with nothing. You
Right.
know, so it's like you're solving all these problems without having a lot of money. So that's like a big. So you're forced to think creatively. You can't just say, "Oh, yeah, I'll just pay someone else to do that to fix it in post." Like you can't just do that, and that's could be called lazy filmmaking, because even if you have all the money in the world, doesn't mean that, think about how much Disney's getting bashed these days, and they have all the money in the world. They have, in terms of production quality, the top of the line, everything, the best actors out there. But do they have the best stories? No. Do they have original stories? No.
Nope.
So are they Hey Ho Studios? No.
Hollywood definitely likes to go with safe and just, they'll just these type of movies make this much, so let's just crank out another one.
Well, I would like to hear like the filmmaker's mindset for those big blockbuster movies, because their mindset is almost how much there's studio movies that are essentially a product, and they have to fulfill the product and essentially do what they do, their job in terms of directing, but ultimately the studio's making the decision on what that movie's going to be. Then there's other studios that are like, oh, you have carte blanche, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, Miramax used to have that reputation.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they had less. They had more.
They took more risks.
They did take more risk, but they had less control than they're saying that they do. But anyway, there's some other big movies that you answer to a committee, and that is
focus
something.
Groups.
Yeah, focus groups in a committee. And
do you ever deal with any focus groups on product stuff?
No. My focus group is the premiere. You know, focus group is the screening.
Yeah.
Like, do people react? If people laugh at the right time, it's great. If they don't laugh, it's not good. You know, or people like certain elements that you didn't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I've had early films where I've always kind of had a pretty good solid. Anytime I'm doing a screening, it's typically been a very positive experience. Which, by the way, we have a screening Saturday, which I'm super excited about. It's our video for the Life Center that we did. So that's something that I'm very excited about. It's going to be in front of 750 people. The biggest premiere I've ever had, but it's awesome. It's not about me. That's not a really technically a premiere. It's a screening at a gala, but
it's a product that you created, and
you shot it, but I created it. But exactly. Trevor Harris is going to be there, so you're going to meet Trevor.
Nice.
So that is essentially the focus group, because Tom Green was talking about how they did focus groups, right? So he had a cut of the movie Freddy Got Fingers.
Yeah, I saw it too.
So awesome. So he had a cut. He had a cut of the movie, and I guess he showed the head of the studio like the first cut of the movie. And you know what the guy said?
He hated it.
No, complete opposite.
Really?
He said, this is the best, most genius first time, filmmaker movie I've ever seen. But people in the focus group said a certain scene about
the elephant scene. Or
no. A scene that he had to cut. He had this uncle who was gay in it that they ended up cutting the scene out, or this whole character out, and the uncle was played by Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah,
you know, like that's a really funny character. So, he was saying how he had that scene where Freddy actually stayed with his uncle Ned, and then he was dressed as a Native American or something, and he's kissing a guy or whatever. This is really weird, but anyway, so he ended up taking that out because of the focus groups that they had. So he said like it ended up being a completely different movie, you know. So, but at the same time, I think that movie actually is underrated, I think, because I think, you know, and he also says, there's certain scenes that are gross out scenes, and the focus group's response were, that scene was gross. And it's like, yes, they're supposed to be gross. Well, like, you know, if you as a director are wanting a scene wanting to get a reaction out of an audience, particularly if it's a gross scene, or if it's a, you know, like in Rideshare, you know, when he licks the hula doll after, you know, we won't spoil the whole thing, but you guys have seen it. But when he licks the hula doll at the premiere, everyone was like, ugh, and I'm like, yes, because that's what I wanted. We want that gross out moment, right?
Yeah,
and if a focus group is like, well, I don't like that, and then it's like, look, guess what? There's a reason why I'm making my own movies. It's a reason why I think when it comes to feedback like that, that's like, okay, that's great. That's great feedback because I did my job. Yeah. And if people are getting a visceral reaction out of it, the worst reaction would be like the focus group feedback. If I were to screen a movie and no one were to react about anything, that would be, then I'd be like, okay, I'm in trouble. I need to do something, you know, I need to, you know, cause I could have, maybe I have kind of a my way or the highway type mentality a lot when it comes to the movie, but it's like I have the vision of the movie. I want to make it this certain way. Yeah. But there's times where things might not work. And then when you watch it, like the Simp screening, there was one scene in particular that kind of dragged on a bit that since cut down. So so that's kind of the feedback there, and you know, so I guess I gave you a very long-winded answer.
There was a show when I was a kid called All in the Family.
Yeah,
Carol O'Connor playing like this racist, like, you know, guy who was like, you know, he's abusive to his son-in-law. He calls him Meathead, who was played by Rob Reiner.
Oh, right.
And Archie Bunker character. If that show looking back is like is like a classic comedy. It's hilarious. It's funny because he's like this stupid racist kind of guy, But if you ran that show through a focus group at the time in like 1978 or something like that, it would have been like people like if you ran it through a focus group today, people would be like oh, I don't really like he's too kind of abusive and too ignorant about. It's like, well, that's the joke. Like,
Yeah.
it's like that's you're taking the humor out of this stuff. So you could kill like the response like if that's the goal, and then they reached that goal.
Yeah,
and it became a classic.
Well,
show.
yeah, and then people that had this podcast that talked about rideshare, and they infamously said, "Oh, it's just it's a terrible movie. It's just about a fat Uber driver who sucks." And it's like, well, yes, you typically murderers are not good people. Like I wouldn't call them good. Yeah, they murderers suck. Okay, congrats. Like. So I think people like that miss the point. So if I hear something like that, I'm not like, oh man, I better recast rideshare to be a skinny person who's a great person, but happens, that doesn't make any sense.
No, you got to believe in your own dream, your own goal. You're making this, like, your favorite underrated director, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
He's always said, like, he doesn't make the movies after he became an A-list celebrity. He doesn't make the movies that other people want to watch. He makes the movies that he wants to watch.
Well, see, I disagree with him on that because Spielberg himself says you make movies for an audience. There's movies that they're making it. If I were to just make movies for themselves, they would probably, for myself, it'd probably be way too esoteric and really out there and weird. And like, yeah, I've made those short films on my YouTube channel, but they get like 50 views or 100 views, and is it for a wide audience? No, absolutely not. Whereas, like Cat Town Story, it's like, okay, I'm looking. That's for a general audience. Yeah. I want a movie that a grandpa could watch with his grandkid. Right. Everyone in between. That's something that you're making. Do I want to sit and watch a movie about cats all day? No, I don't. Believe it or not, I think it's a great movie, but like
that's a movie with a purpose.
A movie with a purpose, yeah. It has a purpose, but it's like it has a good positive message, and you want to get that across. So dude, if I were to make movies, you make it for the audience, because if you don't have an audience, what do you have? You have nothing. It's like that's why I always want to make a movie, and then you make it so people can talk about it, or other people can have different opinions on it, and that's okay. And going back to the mindset, which we were talking about, the filmmaker's mindset is, I think there are those two type of directors where, one, they're making a movie for an audience, or two, they're making it for themselves. There's ways to make them about both. Like, because for me, watching a movie, I'm probably more of a critic than most, but at the same time, I'm an audience member first. I love watching movies. I love just immersing into a story, and I want an audience to do the same with my movies. I think that's what my thing is. I don't want people to be like, well, if I was just making movies just to please myself. I mean, I can't think of a more egotistical. So yeah, so
like we're talking about Andy Warhol.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna make a 26-hour movie of the Empire State Building, and just people are gonna watch it because I'm, like this, because they think I'm a genius, like
right.
Or somebody's feet. There's an 8-hour movie. Like he literally made 8-hour movies of like someone's feet, or someone eating like a hamburger or something like that.
Right.
He was ahead of his time, because that would have killed on TikTok.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's.
But yeah.
See, that's the thing is like, you can't do. I mean, today, that's such a finite. Yeah. If you're Andy Warhol, okay, great. But who, I've seen so many. Dude, I saw my friend Sammy, who you talked to. Yeah. He showed me his short film from San Diego State, and this is what happens in the movie. Okay, starts off. It's a bum in the street, laying in the street. Okay, he plays the bum, and it's when he's like a 22-year-old college student, by the way. So anyway, so he's a bum, and it's really depressing, like jazz music in the background, and it's black and white, of course. By the way, it's black and white, right?
Film noir, kind of.
Not even that, like. And he's just laying. He's a bum. this for more than 20 to 30 seconds. And then we see another shot, and he's just like this. Like, this song, the music. I'm like, this sucks. This is horrible. This is terrible. It's so one is so depressing. Two, it's taking forever to get anywhere. Yeah. Three, we get bums seeing homeless people as depressed. Like we get it. Like the whole point was like bums are invisible people. Like that was the whole point of his thing. But it was a 5-minute long movie. It was in black and white. You see the bum walking from one. The most exciting part of the movie. Two people go up to him. I'm going to hell. I'll probably have to go to confession after this, right, Trevor? Is that like someone like college kids come by and one pees on the homeless guy, and I'm terrible because I'm laughing. I'm like, well, thankfully something is happening in this movie. At least something happens. But then after that, he just gets up and then he like walks around. And then you see him hunting through the garbage to get a half-eaten burger. It's
not a feel-good movie.
And he brings it out and he's eating it. Like, who wants to watch this? I mean, and look, especially you think, for me, at least the world today, do I want to make people more depressed than they already are? No. You know what I mean? I personally don't. And and he like, and I told him every single thing that I'm telling you guys right now because I don't hold back. If someone asks me what I think of their movie, I'm like, dude, this is terrible. This is brutal. This is depressing. I personally don't like being depressed. He's like, oh, but this is art, man. This is my art. This is my thing. This is my vision. And he loved it. I mean, he loved, but guess what? Do audiences like this type of movie? Does an audience want to watch a movie about a bum on the street?
I mean, as tough as it is, like an honest review is worth, even though if it's like a negative review, it's like worth a lot. It's valuable.
Well, it's negative because the movie was negative. I mean, and it's.
But
valuable.
To tell them like, oh no, yeah, you're good. This is great. You're talented. Like this, like, and to kind of gloss over, and then him to get
he got so offended. I can't believe you didn't like. Oh wow, I can't believe you didn't like my movie. I'm like, well, what do you think I'm gonna? You think I'm gonna praise your movie about a black and white movie about a bum? It's like, it's not. Look, that's a filmmaker that he's making it for himself, and he loves it. And congratulations, he loves it. Oh. That was his movie, his first and last movie that he made. Oh. 13 years ago. It's a 5-minute long film, and he's like, yeah, but I queued up the music to time at the. I'm like, congratulations, man, congrats. Is it who cares? Nobody cares. So, and then there's another example of this on a bigger level is one of my favorite newer directors is Ari Aster. He made Midsommar. You ever seen Midsommar?
No.
Very scary, very creepy, eerie movie. It's about this boyfriend and girlfriend that go to this European summer festival, but it ends up essentially being a cult. They get submerged into this cult, and it's very visceral. It's kind of like Wicker Man from the 70s. The better one. The Nicolas Cage one's entertaining for its own reasons, but so that's a great movie. Another movie is the movie he made before. Hereditary. That's a great movie, and people are talking about that, and people love watching that. And
that movie make mostly horror movies.
Mostly horror movies. And then he made a third movie called Beau is Afraid. Oh. And did you hear about that one? I don't know. So it's starring Joaquin Phoenix. Oh, no. Nice. And it's 3 hours long. And it's Joaquin Phoenix walking around. And then he calls his mom sometimes. And it's, and he saw interviews with him about it, and he says this is like the director Ari Aster. He said this is my favorite movie that I've ever made. I love it. I absolutely love this movie. And again, he's one of my favorite directors. Those first two movies are some of my favorite horror movies to come out in a long time. Yeah. I hated this movie. And guess what? The movie made I think $3 million at the box office, and it was pulled out of theaters after I think a week. Oh, okay. It was brutal. And he's like, I don't get why no one likes this movie. I love the movie. Oh. Well, that's the problem.
One of my first jobs was at a movie theater. high school in the late 90s, and I remember 2 movies. I was working box office. There were 2 movies that came out that I had to give people refunds because they just didn't understand it. It was Magnolia and Being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Like, people came out like they were pissed that they paid money for those movies. I liked both of them. I thought they were, innovative. And
Yeah, I like those movies. I like Magnolia a lot more. Yeah, I like them, but they are. But yeah, sorry.
But I get this. I mean, the general audience is, if you're trying to go commercial and trying to make a profit here, it's like it would help to kind of like make it towards the generic storyline of the hero saves somebody and then fights the bad guy.
Well, it's not about being generic. You could be better than just being generic, and you don't have to be off the wall to make a self-pleasing film. Like,
there's movies,
I want to make both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to make them both, where you have a beginning, middle, and end. You have the hero's journey. You have a structure. It's not about being generic. It's not about it's not just a formula. You can tweak the formula as much as you want, but if you're going off the deep end to the point where there's so many tangents that nobody gets it, and it flies over everyone's head. Well, congrats. I mean, look, if you have all the money in the world to do that,
right, then
do that. Go ahead, do that, and make little movies for yourself, and watch them by yourself, and do other things to yourself. And just.
We were talking about Banksy, the artist.
Yeah.
And he's built an audience around, even though most of his stuff is looked at like, okay, it's interesting. But it's a girl holding a balloon, it's like a shot silhouette, and some of it's really, provoking and everything. But, for someone to pay $10 million for like literally something that, like you could.
Well, that's different, because that's something that
he built this aura of like, oh, that's a Banksy.
Well, yeah, I mean, his stuff is completely different because he's at least getting reactions out of people.
Yeah.
And if the only reaction out of people was like, well, that's dull, that's boring, then he wouldn't be making all this money that he would be, But if he gets a visual reaction, oh wow, there's a political, like he has one where it's like it's a wall, it's a big wall dividing, like, and then it's a kid that paints a hole in the wall, and it's like a beautiful painting in the middle.
Oh,
so it's kind of like, oh wow, like this kid is like envisioning that his life isn't depressing. It's like something beautiful on the other side.
There's definitely talent.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talent in there. But yeah, no, like you were saying, but like someone that takes a red paintbrush and brushes it across.
Yeah, and they want $500,000 for something like because it's I mean it's like this is Picasso's toothbrush. Like that's $10 million because it there's a cult mentality, I guess, with celebrities that's like there's anything that kind of Midas touch on everything that they but it's like that doesn't represent his genius. Like it's it's just you get this connection with it.
There was a very interesting viral campaign. This shoe company made this made this high end event. Invited all these high end people. Put these shoes. Dressed them up, made them look really. Put them on these cool like pedestals and stuff like that, and sold them for like hundreds to thousands of dollars each. And at the end, they tell everyone, "Oh, this is Payless shoes. Like we're Payless shoes. Like that shoe's actually worth $10. And it was a brilliant ad though, because this is different. We're kind of going on a tangent because we're talking about the mindset.
Well, I think a lot of people.
But it's how you market it as well, though. Too.
I think the wine industry is huge. Like you can't tell the difference. Like I mean, some people can.
Yeah. Or they claim they can.
Right.
They really can't.
Right.
I have a friend, Chris. Shout out to my buddy Chris. I love him to death, but he has this decanter. Have you seen those decanter? Yeah, you put the wine through this thing, and it aerates the wine, makes it breathe.
Yeah.
And we did a blind taste test. You can't tell the difference between. He's like, no, I can tell. It's a lot smoother. And then, of course, he will not pour one glass of wine without using that decanter. It's like, well, if you're getting the great wine to begin with, you shouldn't have to put it through a thing. Again,
the old joke with the wine industry is you want to know how to make $1 million in the wine industry? Oh. You start with 10 million.
Oh, there you go.
Because you're going to lose money on this. It's going to be but that's a passion project of someone like it goes back to film. A lot of people that they might make, you were telling me the Oceans movies, like George Clooney or maybe the director like just made those movies as a cash cow to fund his individual like non-performing projects or something like that.
I'm not sure if that was it. Steven Soderbergh. I don't know if he did that, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is like, hey, if you are, because that's cool. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe I would want to make some crazy esoteric movie at one day and just for myself and have snobby people like pay $1 million to watch it, a ticket, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like, do a pretentious one night only screening. It's going to be burned and blown up after this,
The studios don't work like that on funding these movies. And that's why like Hollywood has run out of new ideas and they keep, cranking out the Avengers movies. Cause it's like, they're not going to bet on those movies because there's a good chance it's not going to perform. But
well, I think there's a ways to, that's the thing is you always have to you have to always be innovating and always be looking and if you take a gamble, like every movie is a gamble,
that's
right?
True.
But like, are you gonna go to the casino and bet all your chips on bet your life savings on black once? Or are you gonna put, split it up in 10 different ways, and then you put in. I mean, gambling's a tough mindset, but
you could start a trend like the Paranormal Activity movies, like massive hit, and then everybody else is making let's make ghost hunt stories in Paranormal Activity style. Blair Witch set a trend on it. Nobody thought that was going to be a huge hit, but that's it's a lot of timing. There's some story about like most of the movies in the last that have ever won Best Picture have not been profitable.
Really?
Like that. There's
yes. Okay. Going back to my friend's movie. So my friend's movie won
some awards?
Judges Award. So because I was like, well, dude, this is a perfect movie. This is a movie that's the judges are gonna love because they love the most depressing movie. But my movie won Audience Choice Award. My movie that from my first short in college wins audience. It's like, dude, I would way rather win with the audience than ever with the critics. Obviously it would be great to have both. It would be amazing to have both. But I care more about the audience because if the audience doesn't like it, I could have 5 movie critics love it, but if everyone in the world hates it, then I failed. I failed as a director. So going back to the mindset is you have to have that mindset of you want to make your best movie, but if not everyone loves your movie, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, you're never going to please 100%.
You're never going to please. Yeah.
Same thing with YouTube.
Even if your best friend doesn't like your movie, it's okay. It doesn't make your friend less of a good person. It's like, I think there was something that clicked in me after you spend 2 to 3 years of your life on one project and you release it and then people say, well, that sucked. All right, well, okay, well, very well. You go ahead. You spend 3 years of your life and, tens of thousands of dollars and you try to do it. Go ahead. I would love to see that. So it's like you kind of have to laugh it off. So going back to the mindset, you do have to be pretty mentally strong and you can't, yes, we're humans. We have feelings. If someone says, oh, that Tremaine's movie Simp sucks. Tremaine sucks. He's terrible.
Should never make another movie.
Never make a movie. You just give up. Like I actually, if they were to say that, I'm like, oh damn, well, thank you. I don't know. You at least get a reaction out of someone. The worst thing you could hear is that, oh, that was interesting. Anyway, so
or just a thumbs up emoji or something.
Yes, yeah, Joe, yeah.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, that's the worst because then that's like.
You want the response. You're looking for a response, good or bad. You want to know what they felt.
The worst response is no response.
Yeah,
and no response is a response.
Yeah. So and movies. I mean, they can be really offensive, but they'll sometimes that, like, in the end of the day, like, that's why all these people saw the movie. It's like, oh, you should see this movie. It's horrible, super gross, but like, okay, all right, I'll check it out. No.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But you don't want to go out of your way to piss people off.
right,
But,
and
like,
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
the thing. Is like it's like it becomes something where, um, going back to Ari Aster, he said, he goes, there's a scene where the character finally leaves the city and he goes into a forest, right? And he goes, oh, it's like, I have so much pleasure in the fact that, at this scene, we're 2 hours in and there's still a full hour left of the movie. And it's like, man, that is almost like nihilistic, or it's like, what is that? It's like you want to torture your audience. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting sadistic, and to me that's disrespecting the audience, because people spend their precious time watching your stuff, and just to actively know that you're wasting their time, and then to brag it in their face, that is a whole level of arrogance I've ever heard. I mean, that is beyond arrogant. It's like, you're actively wanting to torture
you're pissing
people
on the audience.
you absolutely, and that's exactly what Rian Johnson did with Last Jedi, where he's like, I really like the fact that I he wanted to be different. There's ways to subvert audiences' expectations so they can't predict what you're doing. But then there's other things where you're peeing on a franchise that is loved, and he did irrevocable damage to the franchise. I mean, J.J. Abrams made a good enough movie. Yeah, was it original at all? No, but it was at least a fun movie with Force Awakens. And then Last Jedi just destroyed everything that Star Wars stood for, and it made Mark Hamill a very, very, very bitter person.
Did it really?
Yeah. You should see interviews with him. There's like compilations of him talking about it. He doesn't like Force Awakens either, because he's only in it for like 5 seconds, like the last scene.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, where am I? He's like, well, where am I? And so he's like, this is the biggest build up to any character in the history of cinema, and then by the time I'm there, I'm gone. And then how with Last Jedi, he wanted to go, like Rian Johnson wanted to go against, he wanted to piss off the Star Wars audience, and he did. And everyone, it'll never be the same. And he actually did something that he made the prequels look 100 times better than, and if you look at the prequels, they age a lot better than,
It's amazing. I mean, if you look at stuff that was shot and came out in 1977, like Star Wars looks amazing on it. That's George Lucas is a fanatic about, like, you got to shoot on 70mm film for space scenes, and it still holds up. But they've also polished it over the years and everything.
Yeah.
You said though that no one ever goes out of their way to like make a bad movie, I guess, or something like that. It was It's like it's not anybody's intention on it. It might end up that way, but it's in their mind. It's like we're making this.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think no one does, because why? Why do you think that is?
Is they false sense of false confidence in their.
But what else?
Like, what will be the point of like making something that's a failing project?
Right, and
they're gonna make that movie no matter what.
Well, because it takes so much time,
and effort,
so much effort, so much energy. You're doing so much work. Does someone want to spend all this work just to make a terrible movie? I mean, there's a way to make something like tongue in cheek and funny and everything, but you can make it try to be bad, but you're really trying to make it good, because if you're, it's like no filmmaker wants to make a bad movie, and you end up hey, if you just get it, it is that roller coaster. So going back to the mindset, if every filmmaker is kind of like, well, maybe not everyone, but you kind of have to have a level of insecurity with the movie, because if you're thinking, oh, this is so great, this is so awesome, like the filmmakers that tell me, oh, I made a movie and it's amazing, I got red flags. Red flags are just flying, because
there's hyping it up.
Yeah, because they are, like, oh, it's amazing, like there's a way to say, like, oh, you know what, I'm really proud of it. I worked really hard on it. I'm proud of the end result. Maybe not everyone will like it, but I'm pleased with what we had, right? Mm-hmm. Then I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be a good movie. But if they're like, oh, I think it's really good, I'm really great at what I do, it's really, oh, you're gonna love this movie that I made. Those are typically those movies that I watch. Those are not good movies. Those are not the good movies, because they're overly confident. They have a false sense of confidence. And then also, not only that, they haven't worked so hard. They haven't made those mistakes yet. They haven't looked at their own. They haven't looked at their own work with the critical eye. Like, the best people that I know are their own worst critics, where they're always wanting to get better. They're always want it to be improved. They always wish that they could reshoot it at some time, but they can't. They know that they can't, because you can't. Like, you could till the cows come home, but you really have to set it and forget it and just make it the best you can. Have that deadline, set it out, set it free, and have that mindset that, hey, you're going to make it the best you can be, but then once it's out there, it's out there. People can love it, people can hate it. Focus on the next one, work on the next project, give that one your all, and then go from there.
What do you think about those actors, A-list actors, that refuse to watch their own movies?
Oh yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly, never, Trevor.
And then it goes for directors, but like, I've heard a lot of actors, like, they just like, okay, they did that movie, and they don't like seeing themselves on screen. They don't like hearing their own voice.
Samuel L. Jackson has a great way of response to that, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "I make like I'm an actor, so I can watch myself on the big screen. I want to watch myself as as Mace Windu with a cool purple lightsaber. Yeah. It's like, yes, you want to watch. It is something." Like, yeah, of course, that's the dream. It's like, I want my movie to be on the big screen. It would be like, so I had something where I think it's a combination of things. One is self-consciousness. Like, everyone's self-conscious, even someone like Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp famously hasn't watched a single one of his movies. No. So he doesn't like watching himself. And Johnny Depp is highly regarded as one of the most handsome men in Hollywood, but won't watch his own movies. But so I think it's lame, because and it would
pretentious,
and lame, and you're too self-conscious, and you kind of have to get over yourself. And so my first ever movie premiere was in Rideshare, and I was a nervous wreck, because I wanted to be good. I want to, so much so, I'm like, I was in the lobby, everyone's watching the movie, we're playing the movie, and it's like 15 minutes have gone by, I'm hearing reactions and stuff, and that's cool, but I was so nervous. I was like, I was pounding a drink, and I'm like, we were sponsored by PBR, shout out to PBR. They send us 30 racks. It was amazing. It was awesome. But then I was like, you know what, Tremaine, you're being a little pussy right now. Sorry for the language. You're being a little pansy, It's like, dude, how many opportunities do you have to watch your movie for the first time on the big screen in front of a big audience? My family was there. My great friends were there. The actors are there. Yeah. I have to go in there and be watching it. Now, you have to watch it.
What was that premiere like? Because the first premiere I saw of your movies was probably the Cattown story.
Yes.
And that was a project you did after Rideshare.
Yes. Yeah. It was incredible.
2018, pre-pandemic, like.
Yeah.
You just.
This was actually 2017, October. It was October 6th, 2017. I remember, because it was happened to be my mom's birthday. It was the only day we could do it. Happened to be my mom's birthday. It was probably the best day of my life, like one of the best days. Yeah, if not the best day of my life, because it was something that I'd always wanted to do. My whole big dream, being 4 years old and wanting to put my movie on a big screen, and then you're doing it, and it happened to be my mom's birthday, so it
Was it around here?
No, L.A. This
LA?
was in L.A.
Nice.
So it was at it was in L.A. and it was a packed theater, 270 some people, and the reactions were fantastic. Everyone loved it, and and it was amazing. It was incredible. There's nothing like that first time. So
The sign you've arrived.
yeah, and then the next day I was like, well, now what? Like now what? What do I do now? I mean, dang, I just did what I've always set to do, and then my parents were staying at the Beverly Hilton. We went all out for my mom's birthday, and was in the pool. That's Beverly Hilton's where they have.
Pretty Woman was shot. I think.
Oh, was it? Or
I forgot. Or maybe those Welsh.
And I think Golden Globes are there at Beverly Hilton. So very nice, high end, like very Hollywood. Palm trees, beautiful hotel. And I was just like having this existential crisis, but it was also like a huge weight was off my shoulders because I got it done, I got it released, because I exported the movie the morning of, and that's horrible. That's a bad mindset. Going back to mindset, that's not a good mindset to have. To thinking that you could finish the movie and export it, because so many things could go wrong. Because if one file was corrupted out of the tens of thousands of files, literally tens of thousands of files that are all chopped up a certain way, if one of the files was corrupted, I'd be done for. I wouldn't have a movie, and like looking back on it. It could have gone so bad. Like we delayed, literally, it was delayed an hour. No one knew this, but we were getting the footage. Like it was finishing exporting, and we were getting the SD card from Jeremy, because I had to leave. I had to set it and forget it. I had to hit export, and then, and it was going up on time, and it was like 10 hours, or it was like 5 hours. Like, okay, 5 hours. It's 5 a.m. right now. 10 a.m. I'm not going to leave here till 11 a.m. That's perfect. And then it was like
it jumped up to
6 hours. I'm like, okay, 6 hours. All right, that's like right when I'm going to leave, 11 a.m. But that's okay. That'll be perfect. It'll be good. Then it's like 7 hours, and I'm like, well, I could stay here a little bit longer. And it was like 8 hours, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was 9 hours and 10 hours, and I'm like, I changed the settings to export it at DVD settings. Actually, so it was
going for like 4K or something.
Well, I was going 1080 first, and then I went to DVD set because I had to, and then it did the same thing, but it went to stopped at I think like 8 hours or something like that. And then so it would have been
terrifying.
Done. Yeah, and I just had to trust that it would work and that it but so many things in exports can go wrong. So many things it could just stop, or a cat could I was actually crashing my friend Jeremy's place, and they've got 2 dogs. The dog could have jumped on the keyboard and hit the space bar, and you know what I mean, anything could have happened. But they were really great, they were awesome, and shout out to Jeremy and Kayla who they saved the day. He's like, I'm like, okay, so he's on the phone. I was like, I think it finished exporting. I'm like, okay, all right. Now go into the file, go to this file. Okay, where is it? He's like, okay. I'm like, you can do this, Jeremy. You got this. He's like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to screw, So it was really, but I was like, hey, we gotta. It became kind of like Mission Impossible type thing. It actually wasn't as bad as the Showstopper himself. One of the bachelor party premieres. Oh yeah. He was downloading the movie. 5 minutes before we're set to premiere, like with the laptop
in the theater,
downloading the movie, and it wasn't working for whatever reason, and it was like the 5th try, and they were the theater threatened to just not do, like, hey, if you guys start late, we're gonna have to,
because they need that space after.
Well, they didn't need the space after, and then actually what ended up happening that night was they kicked us out 10 minutes before the movie was supposed to end. And Sean was like, I'll pay for the extra time. And they're like, no. It ended up being like new people at the theater. So that was the who killed the Bachelor, or the Bachelor murder mystery. So the ultimate mystery was we didn't even find out who killed the Bachelor. So we didn't even find out the ending. It was a murder mystery movie. And
they made you cut it 10 minutes before the.
Yeah, they kicked everyone else. Jeez. They kicked everyone out 10 minutes before. That was crazy. But actually, no. That other time, that was actually a different time. The other time was Bachelor to the Future, and we got it downloaded, and it was a good thing. We didn't get kicked out, and it ended up being okay because he got comped. He didn't have to pay like the $1,200 for the theater rental or whatever it was. So it ended up being but like what a letdown. I mean, people didn't even find out who killed the and like for a theater, and that was another thing. Is like, dude, it's like the way I put it. Another going back to the filmmaker's mindset, going back to let's say the movie was done. Let's say the movie was done 3 months before, and this was just the planned screening, perfect screening, perfect timing for everything. Everything's polished. You have, a bunch of backup files. There's nothing wrong with it. Technically, it's great. You can get to the theater, and then something like that can happen. Where they're like, well, we actually, you guys started 10 minutes late, so we're finishing. And, like, you guys have to go. And it's like, the way I put that is, you're in the 99-yard line. You're the 99.9 yard line. You got an inch to go. And then your quarterback, like, or like a bird, like the quarterback hikes the ball, and a bird comes from grabs the ball and flies away, and then the time expires. Yeah. And then the refs are like, well, that's the ball game. And it's like, what? Like, you could still, things can go wrong. Still things can happen wrong.
Plus, if you set up also, aren't you supporting other actors to the same thing, the Golden Bachelor? Right. A lot of people are relying. I mean, relying on that.
And that's the thing. And then I hate to say it, some theaters, people are incompetent. Yeah. Like, and if you're working in the indie realm, there's some indie theaters that are smaller time, and they're like, oh, we need a DCP. They're like, well, can we just hook up a computer, a laptop? Because all of them have the ability to plug in an HDMI and just press play. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we don't normally do that, or like they basically want an extra $600 to do the DCP themselves, which is basically like, it's just
a digital cinema projector.
You're right. Yeah, did you work with those? You worked with film.
We were on film. Yeah. We had 35 millimeter film, Christie projectors, and that was scary stuff. Changing the bulbs on those things.
Oh my gosh!
Put a lead vest on and a helmet. If you dropped it, it explodes, and you're changing it out in between showings. So this thing's still like 500 degrees.
Oh my!
So you had to use heavy gloves and everything. But no, I've made some mistakes. I almost got killed by Chow Yun Fat. Almost killed me.
Chow Yun Fat.
Chow Yun Fat.
What?
He did a movie in the '90s called Anna and the King with with the Jodie Foster.
Okay.
It was a 3-hour action reboot of like The King and I, and we're loading it up. I was loading it up onto platters. 3-hour movie on a film it's like 1,000 pounds. It's stuff. So
like literally,
it's literally 1,000 pounds. On
oh my!
Like 10 reels of those 20 or 30
wow.
pounds.
So you pick them up like a reel at a time.
We a reel at a time. You wind it up, stitch it, tape it together, and then you get this huge platter of it. And then so thankfully ours had a defect from Hollywood, from the studio. It happens all the time, a glue splice or a miscoloration or something like that. And our policy was, well, if anything's bad with it, we just send it back to the studio. Mm-hmm. So we're already sending this thing back as a defected print. And so I'm unloading this thing, but it's too heavy to get this electric motor to start unreeling this platter. So I had to crank this thing on full like power, and there's no brakes on it. Like it's just like your hand on like a terry cloth, like a ShamWow, like holding it on it, trying to slow it down. And this thing like starts slowly going up, and then it starts building up like its own like. Last thing I remember was the edges of like 30 miles of film like start rising up, and it's this bowl shape, and the whole thing explodes on this, and it just
Explodes?
I'm covered
Like-
in film. Yeah.
Oh my!
It's
like fire?
no, I know, just
Like it
film
unraveled.
unraveled
Oh my
everywhere.
gosh.
Yeah. And it's
Then you had to.
I had explained
Did you have to re-ravel it?
we spent the next 4 days trying to untangle that thing. We ended up just getting scissors and cutting it up. That was like $20,000 or $30,000 print back then. So I was like, I'm making minimum wage, $5.75 an hour. How many times a year is it going to take me to pay off
Like
that?
I've made in these last few months, I've made $4,000,
Yeah,
and I just
ruined
threw in
like
a
30 grand
$30,000. So
in
I'm
like
at a good
half a second.
negative 26,000, and they're like, "You're gonna be working here
Uh,
forever."
Thankfully, they were destroying the print anyways because it's defective, and I found out like, okay, thank God.
Oh
We
my
just
gosh!
shipped it back to Hollywood in trash bags.
Talk about nerve-wracking.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I did the same thing. I screwed up.
I would have loved to be the fly on the wall for that
It was-
instance, and then also would have liked to be a fly on the wall on when they received it.
Oh,
Like,
gee,
what
yeah.
the hell is this? Like,
I remember I destroyed. It's just what's the statute of limitations
on
property
crime.
damage?
Yeah.
We got an original print of The Wizard of Oz that I thought my 17-year-old self thought, oh, I can restore this. So I took, because we used to have rubbing alcohol and like and cloth, terry cloth towels, and to just clean up glue, spices, and everything. But if you put that on film, it's like it makes it all nice and shiny. So I thought like, oh, okay, I'll do this. Like it's an old original copy of this.
Rubbing alcohol? Wouldn't that
So,
damage? Okay.
That's
let's hear,
where
let's hear it. Let's
it's
hear
like
it. Oh my God.
mixed with it was a simpler time.
It's like
in the 90s.
I could dip this in lava. And...
I sprayed a little on the napkin, on the towel, and then ran it through the projector while holding the film. And I looked at it like, oh, it's actually working. Look at all this dust I'm taking off. Crazy scratches on it. Plus, I'm lucky I didn't catch it on fire. That was nitrate film. I found out later, which is explosive. It's more flammable than gasoline. So it's like that doesn't just melt; it explodes.
An original print of
An original
Wizard of
print,
Oz.
about like 15 minutes of it is a little different thanks to me.
So what did it look like when it was all scratched?
We looked back on it, I was like, oh man, this is one scene that just like it's.
Which scene was it?
It's the first color scene on it. She's
Oh,
just going in there, so
man.
it's kind of. Then I found out
Did it have like lines and streaks? and
Yeah,
stuff?
you get the green. The green lines are like the really deep scratch. The theory was correct.
So you had green scratches.
Green scratches. It was more there was the black lines. It was the black scratches. It wasn't the deep stuff. What I had done was I had removed a fair number of dirt on that film,
Mhm.
but it had also built up a line on the towel. So the towel became not clean anymore. And now it's running it over with like this collected
Oh.
sandpaper, basically.
Oh my gosh.
So that was, but then I found out like Hollywood, they were in the 90s. I don't know if they still do this, but the 35 millimeter film prints are not really cared for. Like they have the archive and the Academy Awards. It's about film preservation and everything. And they give awards to the talent and everything, but its primary goal is like preserving film, because these movies, tens of thousands of movies that have been made over the decades, it's like a lot of it just ends up in the back, like a parking lot in like a studio outdoors, exposed to the elements, and it degrades and it just like disappears on this stuff. So yeah, most of the movies over the years have been shot lost to like either misplaced, fire or whatever, or just like the fact that it's completely destroyed. But
Wow.
and I also screwed up bringing John Malkovich. That one, it's, I think
You're like, that one deserved it. You're like
that was the projector's fault. It chewed up a bunch of the film, the sex scene, and on it, and my manager was like pissed, like, oh, you cut out the best part of the movie. And I think my edit of the film, cutting out the bad crunched up pieces.
There you go. You're like, now, hey, it's PG-13.
So yeah,
now maybe we can sell more tickets.
Wider audience. That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, okay, so going back to the
yeah.
filmmaker's mindset,
So-
what the whole purpose of this
That's true.
this whole video.
There's a process of like, this making a movie. People just see the easy part when they're watching at the end, and if they haven't made a movie themselves, they don't know like the hundreds of hours and like all this blood, sweat, and tears before before that, and so
Yeah, I think Kubrick's his quote was something like you spend 4 years on making a movie, and then 4 hours. A critic can spend 4 hours um, crapping on
tearing
it,
it, yeah.
tearing it
Yeah.
apart. Now it's like you spend 4 years on a movie, or you say let's say 2 years. You spent 2 years on a movie, and you could spend 2 seconds now. Someone can spend 2 seconds on and say this sucks, like literally
Yeah.
this sucks in 2 seconds. Like, yeah, and now they tweet it out or they X'd it out or whatever, and that's it. That then you're done for. I mean, now it's so like immediate, and I think nowadays where movies just kind of come out, there's not really a whole lot of anticipation for many, except for like a key few movies. It's movies just kind of come and go so quick, and it's like, oh, you know like it's already an afterthought. Which, by the way, Five Nights at Freddy's, which was number one and broke, like it was fifth highest box office record in October, it had a 90% drop the next weekend.
Oh, really?
So that's like a significant drop, which means it's a crappy movie. And it was. I mean, it was not good. I mean, it was boring. But
There's a lot of hype.
yeah, a lot of hype, but it had a fan base,
Yeah.
so it's something where like that's what you don't want for a movie is. I mean, yeah, hey, an opening weekend is amazing, but it's better to have that longevity. And like I would rather, a movie blow up, continuously or to slowly peter out a little bit, or like the worst thing is like, oh, a movie came out on Netflix and starring The Rock, and you watch it, and then you forget about it, right? 5 seconds later, and you don't tweet about it, you don't talk about it, you don't even have a discussion. Like, oh, did you watch the movie? No, I didn't. Oh, okay. That was okay. Oh, okay. I think for me, you always want to have something that people can take away from. You could always, you want as a filmmaker something that could be either thought provoking. Like with Rideshare, I say I don't necessarily think it's a scary movie. It's definitely creepy at times. You can be feeling uneasy at times. But next time after you take a rideshare, take an Uber,
Yep.
you'll be thinking about it.
That's right.
You'll be thinking about it. So I want to stick into your brains, or like, even Cat Town Story. It's like people say, oh, I look at cats differently because of this movie. You think, or with Simp, it's like that's going to be more of, beware what you post on Instagram, or people that are models on Instagram, or people that are popular on social media. You could have some psychos out there.
No, I mean, that's always scary stuff for social influencers, because there's a level of success on YouTube that even at 1 million subs, even 10 million subs, you're not living like you're not making millions of dollars a year. But there's a level where before Mr. Beast making multi-million, tens of millions of dollars a year, he can live in a gated community. He can like have his own entourage of security, everything. There's a lot of YouTubers that might have 1 million subs. At that level, you're getting recognized on the street when you go to a McDonald's or something like that. But you're not at the level of like having armed guards. So there's like that kind of gray area of like you have the downside of being like this kind of might be a target to like some obsessed fans, but it's like you can't do anything. You don't have the security of being like, oh, well, that's Tom Cruise travels with a huge,
well, I'm not sure where that came from, or what do you mean?
Oh, with the simp, like,
oh yeah.
People being I guess doxing themselves and like, being
yeah,
targeted by like,
Well, and that's kind of another thing where it's like people that post they're at a certain restaurant, and then someone there, oh, I know that restaurant, then they show up like, oh, let's say it doesn't even have to be, they don't even have to be famous. It could be someone or your ex-girlfriend shows up and is like, I can't believe, or does something. That's a whole nother thing. But going back to the filmmaker's mindset, so I'm at a point right now with Simp where I'm like, okay, I have to man up and raise that rest of that chunk of the film, and I have to practice what I preach, because I've been making excuses. Well, I just need this money and then it'll be done. It's like, well, yeah. So why don't I find that money? Why don't I find the people that want to help produce that? So if you are that person, drop me a line. We could talk, and I can present to you an opportunity, and we can help get this movie done. But this isn't the purpose of this movie. But I'm just talking about a point where there's a lot of filmmakers that are at a point where I'm at, where we're right there. The movie's edited, it's done, but it just needs the audio editing, and anything worth doing is worth doing right. And you don't want it to have crackling or crunching. You want it to be professionally polished and everything. So, but I've been down on it and trying to work on other projects, you know, in the meantime, and it's almost like pushing it aside where, you know, in the meantime, almost every day or every other day, people ask me in person, well, when's Simba coming out? Or two, I get random comments on the YouTube channel or on the trailer. Is this movie ever coming out? That was a comment someone said. Is this movie ever coming out? And it's like, you know, it does hurt. So it is always, though, it is it is that problem that I have to solve about the money issue. It can be solved, you know, and I've been down about it and just overwhelmed thinking about it. So going back to the filmmaker's mindset, what not to have, where typically I'm like, good, and I just think about the solution and just keep going. But like, it's almost talking about momentum. If you kind of lose that momentum, or if you lose, you know, that, or then you get, you know, we're focusing on other projects and also trying to pay your own bills and everything, where because movies are not cheap. It's not a cheap hobby, guys. You know, it's like, if you want it to be a hobby, that's, if I was no, I don't like to say that, you know, but if I was more, I guess, more practical, I would have a set job and then just be a weekend warrior and have films be a hobby, you know. But I can't do that. No. I can't do that. It's all in. I'm all in, right? I'm all in with these movies, and because like I want to get to that level of, you know, because if I was a weekend warrior, Tremaine, like barely, you know, like having a full-time job, and then I'm exhausted by the time I work on what my passion is, and then I'm putting out mediocre product, I'm not going to get good, you know, that because you only get good by continuously doing it, and
taking risks,
taking risks and going all in, going all out. But if you are a filmmaker, kudos to you. Don't give up, never surrender. You know, and you can do two things.
Make excuses.
You can make excuses.
You can make movies.
But what you can't do
is both.
But you can't do both. You can either make a movie or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Trevor and everyone, thank you so much to Joe for joining me. If you guys would like to check out our 48-hour film school, if you would like to learn how to make a movie in just 48 hours of your time, that doesn't mean there's 48 hours worth of content. It's that would be overwhelming. But in just 2 days, you can sit down, watch this, and learn from start to finish, from pre-production to production to post-production to the premiere and everything. We have it dialed in for you. Link is in the description below. Guys, check it out and learn how to make a movie. If you guys are serious, get that product. And I want to see you make your movie and you make your dreams come true. Thank you, guys. Hit that like button and subscribe if you guys really want to support us on Patreon. Thank you so much. And goodbye.